Hey YouTubers, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at something a little different, and that is how to remove decals or stickers from walls. And the same principle would apply to stickers that are left on trim, doors, anywhere in the house really that has to be painted. So let's get right into our demonstration. So just before we get into the demo, I'll give you a quick before. We're in a bedroom. The daughter has moved out of the home, and you can see she's put up a decal here, motivational thing, whatever. If a person is trying to sell a home, you probably heard it being said that we need to depersonalize a space. And so if a person sees something like this, not only does it discourage them from buying and upsetting that personal situation, but they see work involved that they haven't put up. It's more work than just a straight paint job. So we want to remove things like this and simplify the space, clean things up. And we're going to try and remove this so we don't have to paint, but chances are we would have to put at least another fresh coat of paint on if we have some of the paint left over, or we just paint the whole bedroom out again. But we want to minimize the damage, so I'm going to show you some techniques, some tips to try to reduce the impact that this decal has made. One thing to know about these decals or stickers is there's just such a variety of adhesives. Some of these adhesives are designed to adhere to cars, to adhere to signage that is exposed to the elements outside, and they have a very aggressive adhesive. Some of them are like a temporary vinyl, and they're designed to be removed after a short while, maybe every year or so, or maybe even after a couple of months. So we just never know what we're up against. So what we can try to do before we do anything is just try to physically pick a corner or an edge of the decal, and then just try to peel back on itself, peel the material right back on itself, and just see if it'll come off. And in this case it looks like it was a temporary product, but even so, if this decal had been left on here for longer than it was designed to, somewhat like the masking tape we use, the painter's tape, it's only really designed to stick for a few days, and then, contrary to what we might think, the adhesive starts to adhere or bite into the surface. And so what you might find with masking tape is that the most expensive masking tape is one that allows you to leave it for a few days, whereas the cheaper masking tape is only good for a day or two, and then the adhesive really starts to attack the surface, and it makes it harder for it to come off. And so it's the same with these vinyls and stickers and decals, that if it's only designed to be on there for say 6 months, after 6 months the glue starts to attack that surface instead of what you might think the vinyl might release. You only really see a releasing of the vinyl when it's exposed to exterior elements. But in our case, for the most part, we're dealing with interiors, so we just never know what we're going to find. So in this case, it's not leaving any of the residue in behind this decal, so we've got a break. But we still want to go around. You know, we want to work as quickly as we can, but we don't want to rush it and create more work than we need to. So again, we pull the vinyl back, and it's not leaving any residue there, so we can just keep working away, and perhaps we can pick up the pace a little bit. We can work away, and we see that it's not taking any of the paint, and it's not leaving any residue. So what we'll do is we'll just demonstrate what we might do if we find that a little bit of residue is being left, and perhaps trying to remove the vinyl is a little bit tougher than what we've seen here. So I'll show you what we do next. So the next step is to apply some heat to this decal, and what I suggest we do here is apply the proverb or the adage, less is more. So we take our hair dryer and we put it on the lowest setting. So we put it on cool and we put it on low, and then we try to apply a little heat until the surface is warm, and then we would then endeavor to peel our decal back. And we don't want to overheat because that will soften the adhesive and will leave the adhesive on the back. So we start off gently and we try to apply more and more heat as we find is necessary. So let's just demonstrate how close you would go with the dryer, and how you might apply this technique. So we've got the heat setting on low, we've got the fan on low, and we just want to apply it to the surface. You don't have to hold it on there, you don't have to put it so close, but you want to get some heat in that direction. And then don't leave the heat on it. Feel that the wall is warm, and then pick the decal and then pull it back on itself just as we did before. We can shut the dryer off while we're working. And what you can do is when we apply our heat, apply the heat to an area that's maybe the size of one of these letters. You don't want to go too far ahead because it'll just cool down again by the time we get there. So again, that worked out very well. We didn't apply too much heat. So as I say, we apply as much heat as is necessary, and we certainly don't want to use a heat gun because we're not trying to strip the paint below. We're trying to protect this surface if we can. If we don't have to repaint, that's great. Another thing too is we don't want to introduce sharp objects onto this surface. We don't need to use a blade scraper, we don't need to use a putty knife or a 5-in-1 tool. It's just way too aggressive. All we need is either our fingernail to get things started, or a plastic blade of some kind. Just something enough to break the surface tension of the decal. Just get it going so we got enough of the product to be able to peel it back. So then you just carry on and peel off the whole decal. For the most part, this decal came off really clean, but you can see that there's a little bit of vinyl, a little cut in the vinyl was left behind, and maybe the camera can't pick it up, but there's a couple of spots right on this first word where the adhesive is left behind. So when this happens, this is a little tip I can give you. We just use the vinyl, we remove this, and we try to save it, and it still has a certain amount of the adhesive on the back. And what we do is we just rub that on the surface where the adhesive is. You just look down and let it catch the light. And where you see a little bit of that adhesive residue, you just rub it with its own adhesive on the back, and it comes off. You can just go there. So that's not going to come off like that, but we can pick that, and then just use that, and then that saves us having to go to any other kind of tape or any other way of removing that glue. Now if the adhesive on the back of the vinyl or the decal, or if the label doesn't come off as well as this and you can't really use, there isn't enough of the vinyl to use to do that, what you can try is some of the green painter's tape or any other tape that we have at our disposal. Try and use that to remove the glue without lifting off the paint. And then failing that, we have to go to various thinners. I'll explain how we do that, but let's just get the rest of this decal off for now. So we've just removed the L from this word, the word love here, and that wasn't a problem, but now we've come to remove this letter O. And what I wanted to mention was that because we have a bigger surface area here, we got a greater chance that some adhesive is going to be left behind. So sure enough, right along this edge, not so much in the body of the vinyl, but right along the edge here, we have some adhesive left. So what we're going to do is we'll remove the rest of the decal very slowly, and it seems to be coming off just fine. It's not leaving any glue behind. So what we can do then is what we just demonstrated before. Take the adhesive and just run it along where that edge was and remove that adhesive, and then no dirt's going to get trapped on that in the future. If it did, it would just build up and you'd have an ugly mark on your wall. And so that's how you deal with those situations. Let's just go ahead and take off the rest of our decal. We can just take a look around our bedroom space now. We'll do a little bit of an after shot, and we can see that the wall is completely clean now. So anyone coming in to view the house will just see a neutral space. So before we sign off here, I just want to say to you that we caught a break on this particular decal. If we have to use the heat to soften up the adhesive to release the vinyl, the decal, or what have you, we may leave residue that we can't remove with either the tape that we have at our disposal or the old decal material, as I demonstrated. So then what we have to do is use a chemical. And I would suggest using the least aggressive chemical we can get, which is probably methyl hydrate. And we want to try to stick to the area that needs to be cleaned up and try not to soak things too much. Let's just try to be conservative, dampen the area that needs to be cleaned, and try to remove that glue in a way that doesn't affect the paint as much as possible. So methyl hydrate may work. Then we could go to turpentine, not paint thinner, because it will definitely ruin the paint finish. We could try turpentine. Now it smells quite strong, but it will break down the adhesive and may not affect the paint that much, if at all, if we're careful. So we could try those two thinning agents to try to soften the glue, clean the glue off. Failing that, we'd probably have to use something harsher, and then at that point you'd more than likely damage the paint, and even at that point we want to keep it to a minimum, and then we'd have to put a fresh coat of paint on, possibly two. So avoid using hard metallic objects to peel a sticker or a decal, and use these suggestions and you might save your wall, as we did today. Or at the very least you might just have to freshen it up with some paint that you may find, the leftover paint, to either touch up or paint that section of the wall of the room out. So I hope this has been helpful. It's sort of a unique situation that we come across once in a while, and I hope the tips and suggestions help you out. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them. If you have suggestions for a demonstration, I'll endeavor to get to that as well as the circumstances arise. And in the meantime, you can like us and subscribe. Until next time, it's been Craig, the Muskoka Painter, helping you take the pain out of painting.